隊より司令部へ。予定通り突入ポイントへ到着した。
こちら司令室、ハウンド正体を確認、作戦を遂行してください。
これより制圧作戦を開始する。ガンハウンド、前期降下せよ。
Good day everyone, I am Ryouhei and today I'd like to entertain you with a love song. The name of this song is GunHound EX, composed by Dracue Software, published by g.rev and dedicated to Masaya's mecha games, to Armored Troops Bottoms and to almost every mecha-related production that came out in Japan. GunHound first came out as a doujin game for the PC. g.rev noticed how good the game was and helped Dracue Software reforging the game for Sony's hold handheld, and helping them with a completely remastered soundtrack that distinctly sounds like a g.rev production. The PC game can still be found on various online stores, but for this review I'll concentrate on the PSP version. If you ever played Assault Suite Vulcan or Cybernator as it is known in the West, you'll find yourself at home the moment you pick up the game. The GunHound controls almost exactly like the Vulcan, in both digital weight and inertia, weapons and abilities. It's possible to dash by pressing circle or double tapping forward, and the jump can be augmented by a short-lived jet boost. The GunHound is armed with one main weapon, one secondary weapon, one missile launcher and a close combat weapon. These weapons can be configured in the Customize menu along with colors for the mecha. Additional items are unlocked by clearing various tasks, and most of them are related to the total score posted on the game's splash page. All weapons do not have ammo, but they have a cooldown time after emptying a clip. At first the controls might feel a bit cumbersome, as the secondary weapon and the missile launcher are activated by pressing R in conjunction with square and triangle, which are normally reserved for primary and close-range weapons. While managing weapons, you still have to dodge incoming fire and manage where your primary and secondary weapons are aiming, and, if necessary, press L to lock their trajectory. After some time with the game, the control scheme makes perfect sense and works great, though the GunHound is not exactly a very agile machine, and the action sometimes feels way too fast for the control scheme and how heavy the GunHound feels. During the game there will be occasions where the control scheme is completely revised, as the GunHound is moving in a zero-G-like environment, but these segments are kept to a minimum. The game features a series of 7 training missions that fully explain the control scheme and allow the player to get used to all possible situations, so there is nothing much to complain about. If you like a challenge, that is. GunHound EX is not an easy game, even in the tutorial stages. In fact, I consider the tutorial stages even more unforgiving than the actual game, as the scrolling is forced and those levels are thought to offer more than one environmental trap. The other modes are Story and Mission mode. Story mode comprises a total of 5 stages divided normally into 3 segments, one of which is the local boss. Though completing one stage will automatically bring up the next stage's briefing, it's possible to quit to the main menu and customize the GunHound, if necessary. In this case, it's possible to use the continue option on the main menu to start from the latest mission accessible. Selecting Story mode will restart the game from the first mission. Mission mode allows selection of all reached segments and doesn't feature character dialogue. As mentioned before, GunHound EX does not pull any punches, and the mecha won't be able to sustain too many hits before exploding. Continues are infinite, with the only penalty being the score dropping down to 0. It might not sound like a big deal, but remember that new equipment is unlocked by reaching a certain score. In any case, continuing will bring you back to the start of the latest segment reached. If the current stage is abandoned, this progress is lost and everything must be done from the stage's beginning. The stages themselves start off short and all are largely linear in their progression. The first two stages are rather unimpressive, but from the third, GunHound EX show its best cards, and by the fifth stage it's hard not to be drawn into the game. Unfortunately, with only 5 stages the experience is short, and the infinite continues can further shorten the overall experience. g.rev's help might have brought technical expertise to GunHound EX, but it's a pity that Ryouhei wasn't able to squeeze in more levels, because it's hard not to fantasize on what they could have come up with. I personally love Stage 4, in which you have to assault a land ship by systematically destroying all of its guns before confronting the local boss among flames and destruction. The beginning of Stage 5 is also great, and all bosses are memorable.
リーダーより司令本部へ246ダクトに侵入成功。了解。ハウンド2の侵入も確認しました。内部は通信が届きにくいが注意して。
After completing the game, I can honestly say that GunHound EX's biggest fault is to be so damn short. It is a worthy successor to Assault Suite Vulcan, though it never quite reaches the complexity of Masaya's Super NES classic. This is due to a number of small problems rather than one huge fault. I've already said that the control scheme and how the mecha behaves do not completely fit with the level of action, and that the game is painfully short. Enemy variety is another element, along with how linear the levels are and their designs, that shows signs of brilliance, but never quite makes full use of it. The rest is due to technical aspects and the console on which the game runs. Starting off with the sound, I can't but praise the soundtrack. It's typical g.rev stuff, so expect a lot of synthesized sounds, but those are built up on a much heavier base than usual g.rev's productions, and every track stands on its own. Voiceovers are good, but don't expect much originality in them. Same goes for sound effects, they do their work, but nothing out of the ordinary. Graphics could have been better, and consider I quite like them. The bigger sprites show that Ryouhei drew them because they loved what they were doing, and though the game does not employ any jaw-dropping special effect, the overall quality is very good. The GunHound is lovely animated, and if you pay attention you can see that punching ejects a used cartridge from the arm, something out directly from armored troops' bottoms. The game also constantly refers to the neutron polymer that apparently powers all mechas in GunHound's universe. This, the scale of the GunHound itself, and the weapon loadout are even more reminiscent of the Votons than any other mecha out there. Unfortunately, such attention to detail did not go into normal enemies and backgrounds, which look considerably poorer than the rest. There are a few good touches here and there, like the lens flare in the second level, but it's impossible not to notice the discrepancy between graphical assets in both animation and design. And lastly, we have the PSP, or better, its screen. The game interface is huge, and the dialogue appears right on top of the stage, masking view of an important portion of the screen. The boss health bar takes another huge chunk of screen. Everything points out that the game was fought for 4/3 screens, though the original PC version had a widescreen option. and above else a bigger screen than those of any handheld, PSP, 3DS and probably even the Vita. Graphics on the PSP screen are much less readable than on a 20 or so inch screen, but thankfully the PSP has an output option. Outputting the video does create more pixelization to the graphics, but playing on a big screen is so much better that you'll easily forgive a few more visible pixels. I would have loved to see GunHound EX available on any home console, X360, PS3, Wii U or even the Wii. I think the most limiting factor here is not the game itself, but the hardware chosen to run it, and that g.rev only settled for a revision rather than help Dracue software to create a true masterpiece. The game is entirely in Japanese, and unless you absolutely want to understand the story, nothing stands between non-Japanese speakers and it. GunHound EX is also available on PSN if you want to save something, and the bottom line is to buy it. Brieri Oskarensky, over and out.
耐久気筒エレベーター着いたぞ。
無理やりでも突入するわよ。
よっしゃ。うりゃー。銀河フォース